not looking at you because I'm reading. Yes, I'm reading. I'm learning right up until the moment that this goes live, and I'm still learning. All right, we're done learning. Welcome to Healthcare Triage Live. We're sorry we're a few minutes late. Let me hit the tweet go. I forgot to do that. Where's my tweet? Where's my Twitter? Ugh, I can't find my Twitter. Now I'm opening up apps. There we go. Tweeted. Okay. Now if you're on Twitter, you saw my tweet. Anyway, welcome to Healthcare Triage Live. I'm not even going to do the housekeeping because there's links on the screen and you can see them. There's a new poster. You should go check out the merch. Watch Monday's episode of Healthcare Triage. You're going to love it. And let's launch right into things if I can find my list of questions. Here we go. Little line flower. Is there any good data? You should say, are there any good data? Data is always plural, little line flower. Are there any good data to support avoiding nitrates? I've been checking every lunchmeat label trying to avoid them without much success, and I wonder if this isn't another panic-du-jour, which I love. And I just used it in an episode today. Anyway, nitrates and nitrites are types of preservative. Nitrates is like nitrogen with 3 oxygen, and the nitrates are the nitrogen with 2 oxygens, and they are in lots of things. Nitrates are in vegetables. They are in high quantities. In fact, there's some people think you get more nitrates from your veggies than you do from your processed meats, but we know about them in the processed meats because they get added. And processed meats, of course, are bad for many other things. Lots of people think. They also, I think, give it the pink color. You know, I think a lot of it is about trying to do flavoring and also how they make the meats and all of that. And I'm sorry, not just flavoring, it's also preservatives and whatnot. The problem with nitrates is that there are some people that think that they get converted in the body, especially with heating, into nitrosamine, and some people think that that's linked to cancer, and that's where we get into the problems. The other thing is that nitrates are often turned into the body into nitrates and NO and things like that. They lead to some blood vessel dilation that can cause headaches in some people. It's also what makes nitroglycerin work. I mean, the reason that people take those nitro tablets is because it opens up the blood vessels almost instantly. It gets blood, therefore, to the coronary vessels in the heart, and it saves their lives. That's what the nitrate, the NO, and all that stuff does in the body. So that's what the nitrates are. Some people are sensitive to them, but you know, some people also think that they're only getting them in meat. And the truth of the matter is you can get them in lots of things. No one's ever really done a study to see if the nitrates you can get in some vegetables grown in the summer or whatnot are actually just as offensive to your body as the nitrates you get in food, or whether this is something placebo-ish that you're getting because everyone's been teaching you to hate processed meat, or it's something else in the processed meat that's causing you a problem and you've just assumed it's the nitrates. Terrytown asked, what are sulfites? Why is there a contains sulfites warning on my wine bottle? Sulfites are preservatives. They also help to keep the microbes down. And some sulfites are made naturally. They're like, you know, again, sulfur-containing compounds. Some sulfites are made naturally in the production of wine, but often not enough. And so some winemakers will add sulfites to, again, help keep the microbes away and help use it as a preservative. The reason they're on the label now is because some people have a bad reaction to sulfites, and they can be allergic to them, and therefore the FDA and other groups have mandated that they be put on there. The problem, as with so many things, gluten, GMOs, is that a few people have problem, and then everyone assumes they are one of those lucky few. And so everyone starts having real reactions to sulfites and tries to avoid them completely and everything else. Sulfites were always there in the wine. Sulfites are in other foods too. They're there because the labels are there because they have to be there. But, you know, people get headaches from wine and alcohol, not just from the sulfites. Some people used to blame port and say that port had a lot of sulfites and that was the cause of their headaches. Port is also what you drink last, usually after a monster meal of probably lots of other alcohol consumption, and therefore you're more likely to blame the port. You can get wine without sulfites. It'll still give you a headache if you drink too much of it the next day. It's called a hangover. But if you are allergic to sulfites, if you truly are, yes, you should avoid them. The problem is that I think too many people are sort of saying that they are. If you have concerns, of course, speak to your doctor. AK11234, I've heard of and seen ads for some DNA test services like companies like Ancestry and 23andMe. What's your opinion on these? Are they accurate and worth it? Well, they're accurate. You know, they're going to give you a DNA. The problem is, like, but are they worth it? So if you derive satisfaction from being handed information about themselves or like knowing something about your genes just because it makes you happy, then it's worth it. If you think it's going to cure a disease in the short term, incredibly unlikely. There are still, unfortunately, only very few things that we can do like genetic tests for, and they're targeted. And that's considered, a test that's, somewhat regulated. 23andMe, somewhat not the same thing. They're just giving you this big gene dump, and we don't know what to do with the vast, vast, vast majority of data you get from that. Personally, I've never gotten any one of those tests. I really don't see the need, because even if they tell me I have a disease that I can do nothing about, I don't get satisfaction from that. I would rather not know. That's me. Other people want to know. But I feel, as we've talked about before in healthcare triage, that screening tests should have a purpose. And one of those things is, if I knew something, could I do something about it? The answer for a lot of that stuff is no. That makes it not a great screening test. Therefore, I wouldn't engage in it. 23andMe sometimes has gotten in some trouble with the FDA over their marketing, because if you get closer and closer to that line of being a test for diagnosis purposes or health reasons, the FDA gets squirrely. If you're just doing it for informational purposes, it's your money. Spend it however you like. I won't judge any more than I judge the way people spend money in general. James Craver related. My in-laws tell me that drinking cold things while eating food with oils and fats will cause them to solidify and give me a heart attack. I think that's wrong. How do I explain? It is wrong. Your body's a toasty 98.6 degrees or something close to that. I promise you, if you drink a cold drink, you don't go much below that in the very short, long term. Your body will heat it up. You drink, you'll feel the cold. That's when you get like the ice cream. And when you eat ice cream, it's not like you chill your body massively. It goes in your stomach, it gets heated up and everything else. The same thing happens with, the food and that goes in your body. Even the hot food's going to cool down. The cold food's going to heat up. Eventually, everything turns into about 98.6 degrees. Long before it gets absorbed into your body and goes to your heart. The blood that's in your body is a pretty standard degrees temperature. It's not going to change based upon if you drink a cold drink. It's not going to change based upon whether you're eating in oils and fats. Now, oils and fats theoretically might contribute to you getting a heart attack. The cold beverage has nothing to do with it. So, feel free to do that, together, I suppose, as much as you like. And tell your in-laws that their healthcare triage proven wrong. Anyway, Mark, patron. No, that was from Mark. Yes, thank you. Patreon patron Bobby Bowman asks, my question is, what is your opinion on the value of the coronary calcium scan test? Okay. It has value for things. So what it does is it's a scan which looks at whether you have sort of calcium plaques in your coronary arteries. If you are at moderate risk for a heart attack, meaning that you have like a 10 to 20% chance of having a heart attack, I think, in the next 10 years, many doctors will recommend that you get this test because it'll tell whether or not you have, early calcium plaque deposits, and that, if you do, that could be signs of an increased risk of heart attack over the next 5 years. And so based upon the results of that test, they can then plug that into different risk calculators to give you a sort of more personalized risk of you are at this kind of risk, and that can change whether you want to be on certain medications, have certain procedures, or take certain lifestyle changes. You, I don't want to read too much about you, are 68 years old. You had close to 0 as a score. Yeah, so that would probably place you at very low risk of a heart attack over the next, 5 to 10 years. That doesn't mean you're at 0% risk, because nobody is at 0% risk. But it should be, fine. So I think you are, reacting to those results correctly. So I would also question why you were getting the test. Are you at moderate risk of heart? Regardless, if you have a score of 0, meaning they don't detect any calcium in your arteries, then I would imagine that yes, you are at very low risk of a heart attack in the short term. That doesn't mean that I would still not recommend you do things like eat a healthy diet, exercise, do all of those things, but take comfort in that. On a personal note, I'd just say and then when they want to give you the test next time, ask why. You should be, remember, at a decent risk before you get a test. You have to know your prior your pre-test probability of having the disease before you can interpret the test. And I'd imagine your pre-test probability was reasonably low. Michelle Guiane asks, I have macrophage activation syndrome. And I was wondering if you have any studies or information on it, like how often does it flare, how rare it is, and what helps control it, and life expectancy for those who have it. Really appreciate it. Thank you. You've got to go talk to your doctor. But broadly, macrophage activation syndrome is a conglomeration of symptoms or syndromes that run along with some other rheumatologic diseases, specifically sort of some of the ones that young children get, like juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, I believe. And it can be accompanied by fever, as well as, rash and a lot of other problems in the body. There's got to be tons of research on it. I'm not positive, and I couldn't answer offhand about like what you would do to prevent it and how often would flares and that. But your doctor should know. I imagine you have a rheumatologist. Your rheumatologist should know the answer to this question. You should ask your rheumatologist. Your doctor will be happy to talk to you about it. You should not have to turn to healthcare triage for clinical advice. While I'm thrilled to answer your questions, and I'm sorry you have macrophage activation syndrome, it bothers me that you can't go to your doctor and ask. If your doctor, you don't feel comfortable doing that, get a new doctor. So one that you feel like you can talk to, you should absolutely have that conversation. Teatake, what are your thoughts on sleep training and research-based practice that you recommend to parents? There's no randomized controlled trials on this. I can only give you the benefit of my own wisdom, in which case I'd say, yes, I'm a big proponent of sleep training. Sleep training, by the way, is when you realize that babies are waking up all the time at night. They only sleep for a couple hours. You have to sort of train them to sleep a longer period of time. What we're really talking about here is not training the babies, though. It's training the parents not to screw up the baby's sleep schedule. Because babies are smarter than you think. And they learn quickly that if they whine and you bring them tasty, tasty food, they're gonna cry. If they cry, I wake up in the middle of the night and I cry, not only does mommy, who I love, or daddy come and comfort me, but they're also gonna bring me a tasty treat. They're going to do that more and more often, and they will do it, and they will scream when they don't get it, because they've learned mommy and daddy is gonna bring me a tasty treat and give me lots of love. So what we have to do is train the parents not to do that. And then the babies eventually learn, well, you know what, this crying's a waste of time. I'm pretty tired, I'm gonna go back to sleep. And eventually they learn, first of all, to comfort themselves back to sleep, which is an important skill. And secondly, they eventually learn that it's really not worth my time to wake up in the middle of the night. I'd rather get the sweet, sweet embrace of sleep for 6 hours, or maybe more even, and not have that tasty treat. I can wait till morning, where mom and dad will still love me and everything else will happen. So sleep training is saying okay, the baby's crying, tonight I'm gonna wait 5 minutes, and then I'll go in. Tomorrow I'm gonna wait 10 minutes, then 15 minutes, then 20, and really stretching it out until finally the babies go, screw it, I'm not waiting anymore, I'm just gonna go back to sleep. And that's how you do sleep training. Now, if there've been randomized controlled trials in this, I'm gonna bet no. Did my wife and I do this? Yes. Because Amy, and she may be watching, I don't know, was weak. And she wanted to go in every time the baby cried. She wanted that monitor going, and I was like, no, let's turn the monitor off, and let's not do it. Thank goodness most of the babies slept at the other end of the hall, but she wanted to listen and she wanted to go in, and we had to break that cycle and teach the babies, and moreover teach Amy, that the babies are gonna be fine, and that they'll still love you in the morning, and that they don't need the food. And Lord knows, Jacob did not need the food. You should see pictures of him when he was a baby. So you have to get parents to sort of let go and do that. Sleep training is perfect. Now you'll run into people that think it's torture, as if if I force a baby to cry, that is torture. It is not torture. You're not depriving babies of food that they need. I'm not advocating for that. I'm talking about trying to change parental behavior so that babies and everything get on better schedules that work out for everyone as a family. So in the end of the day, long-winded, long story, I'm fine on it. But this is not one of those areas where you're going to get a ton of hardcore research telling you what to do. There's really no way to do it. As I tell parents all the time, there are very few kids that go off to college still waking in the middle of the night and crying for mommy and needing a snack. Almost all children learn to sleep through the night. We're just worried about when they learn that. But almost no one makes it, really significantly without learning it eventually. So a lot of this is really first world problems where we're panicking about stuff we might not need to. John Wood, what are your thoughts on people taking medicine to treat mild to moderate fever when fever is the body's natural immune response? Any evidence to support that taking meds to suppress fever is bad? Well, no. It's a great question. Not really. I mean, the fever is sort of the body's weak response, to try to do that. It raises things a couple of degrees. Part of that is a theory that, it's helping to fight the virus, but that's not necessarily always true, because viruses adapt, and there have been research showing that viruses are better sort of at the 90-ish degree of infecting you here than, other places. And so it's like, I don't know that that's that important. And fever stinks. I mean, it just makes you feel like crap. So I treat fever pretty much every single time. You also have to remember that the vast majority of things that we're treating, the body's very capable of fighting it off. Most viruses, we're really good at it. If it takes a tiny, statistically significant but clinically insignificant more time because I interfered with the fever for someone to kill off that virus, but they feel much better for that whole process, I'm going to err on that side. But you can make your own choices. So I tell people, treat your symptoms. Don't feel like you got to be in pain. Don't feel like you got to be in fever. We can help children to feel better. We can help adults to feel better. So I don't think there's any really good evidence that shows that taking, medications like acetaminophen or ibuprofen to suppress fever is significantly impairing people's ability to fight off disease. If I am wrong on that, people should email me and we'll say it, but I doubt that I am, given that we would really radically change the way we treat fever. Sleek Panther, risks or benefits to cleaning my ears with Q-tips. I like clean earbuds and end up removing orange wax from my ears about once a week because it's safe as long as I don't go too deep. That's the key. Q-tips and the external, if you're removing stuff from the outside, feel free. If you're removing stuff that you can see, well, the problem is always like going in too deep and pushing stuff in. You don't want to do it. So you're not supposed to stick Q-tips in your ear. I say that out loud knowing that no one uses Q-tips and doesn't stick them in their ear, I think. Because that's, we tell people to do it and then no one actually listens. But you don't want to go too deep. You don't want to poke your eardrum and you don't want to shove stuff in there where it can't get out. The body's natural instinct is to keep trying to move the wax out, not in. And if you push it in further than the body really has the ability to stick it out, that's a problem. So, don't go in there too deep. Don't panic about having wax in your ears. It is the body's, here with the next one. That is what the body's naturally producing. Probably a reason for it. So don't go too deep. I cannot even read this next person's name. It looks like it's all in Russian letters. And so Are there any studies on health risks of being underweight? Is it just as bad as being overweight or better? Depends what you mean by underweight, because, of course, that's a weak word. Slightly less. What does underweight mean? 5th percentile? Well, some people are going to be 5th percentile. Less than I'd expect given your height? Well, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Severely underweight? Yes, that's a problem. It's going to interfere with your body's hormonal systems and everything else. Long term, it's not good. But, you have to get very underweight to be a problem. With respect to overweight, mildly overweight is a problem. So I don't know that I'd say it's worse. On the other hand, if you're as a doctor, when I say underweight, I'm picturing severely malnourished. I think most people are thinking underweight, they're a little lighter than they'd like to be. That's probably okay. But severely underweight is a real problem. I don't think either is good. And I'm not going to get stuck sort of trying to say which is better or worse, because it's sort of irrelevant. You want to shoot for neither. Strong medicine. Do you have an opinion on how likely Zika virus is to be causing microcephaly? Specifically, the reported baseline rate of microcephaly in Brazil, about 150 per 3 million births, is statistically impossible. So, actually Monday's episode's on the Zika virus. Monday's episode's on the Zika virus. We just taped it. So you should watch it. I don't think that, here's the thing. The whole world's watching this. There's good reasons to be concerned that Zika is causing the microcephaly. And if it was just a statistical anomaly that they weren't tracking or honestly reporting the births before the Zika virus, we would know. I mean, there's huge amounts of focus right now. No one is really saying, it's just not that they weren't. The uptick in what's going on in Brazil is really frightening. And it's not just Brazil. Other countries are noticing as well. It's just that most people are seeing it in Brazil first. There's some people that think that actually this is a cause of the World Cup, that the massive influx of people internationally is what brought Zika to Brazil to begin with. That coupled with changes in climate and the fact that the virus can now live in the areas more easily. It's a whole complicated thing. You should watch the video on Monday. I don't think most people are comfortable saying this is a statistical anomaly, then that it was impossible for it to be low. Now it's getting to normal. There's more evidence than just that. But watch the video on Monday. Elizabeth, what's the difference between a DO and an MD degree? What's your opinion on osteopathy? An acquaintance I greatly respect is getting their DO degree, and I'm not sure what to think about that. We've actually answered this question before, but I'm going to answer it again because I'm concerned about how you're judging your friends. The difference is getting less and less. It used to be more of a philosophical, first of all, it used to be more of a bone focus. And then it became more philosophical. But the truth of the matter is that both DOs and MDs finish medical school and then go on to do residencies. And the residencies, for the most part, are merged. So I trained in residency with people who were DOs in family practice and then who went on to become doctors. So here's the other thing. What you learn in medical school or DO school does not make you a good doctor. You finish medical school, you are not ready to take care of patients. Residency is where I learned to be a doctor. You would not have wanted me doing anything with your child when I was a newly minted MD. And I would say the same thing about DOs. There's differences perhaps in the acceptance standards. I think that some people might point to. There may be. There may be differences in sort of the training you get out of it, but 10, 15 years later, when they're doctors, I don't know that you're really going to be able to figure out which is the difference. Regardless, I would not lose respect someone who, went to college, earned a degree, and then went to go on to get their doctorate in osteopathy. Why not? Like, that's awesome. They're getting a doctorate, for God's sake. Any more than I wouldn't, put my nose up at anyone getting a PhD in something versus an MD or any other kind of advanced degree. That's what they want to do. Respect them for that. So now I'm judging you. No, I'm not. I guess I am a little bit. I'm telling you, I'm more concerned about the last sentence than I am the fact that they're getting their DO. Lots of great physicians are DOs. It's a difference in philosophy. Some people want to be DOs. Some people want to be MDs. Some people maybe can't get into the school of their choice and go the other route, which is also totally fine. The training makes a difference later. I'd recommend that you not. I would say that what you should think about it is to say, I have an awesome friend who I greatly respect before and after they became a doctor. Nigerian medic. Why are physician residency work hours so depression-inducing? Well, they suck. I have like 1 minute to answer this question. I wish I should probably start the next episode with that. So, yeah, we're actually going to talk. We have a whole episode. I actually wrote a piece in the New York Times recently on this. And we got a whole upcoming episode on it. But the truth of the matter is that, residency work hours can suck. I was a resident not that long ago, and I would be on for 36 hours straight on some rotations every third night. So basically, like on all night, work the next 2 days, and then do it again. And so it was like 80-hour work weeks. I was blown way past that. And I was specifically trying to be a doctor, and it wasn't fun, and people were dying, and I felt disconnected from friends and family, and I have no doubt that it contributed to the massive case of depression that I had while I was a resident. There's lots of other reasons. It's just, you feel helpless a lot of the time, and yet you're expected to do everything. Again, you've just finished medical school, you feel like you've accomplished a lot, and you realize you still know nothing. It's hard, you're sleep deprived, you don't have a normal life, you don't have a normal schedule. There's a lot of reasons, but watch our upcoming episode. And if you still have questions after that, come back and ask us again. I have some more questions. We're going to get to them next week because I got to go. Thank you so much for watching. We'll have a link to next week's video in the description shortly. Again, it's on the Zika virus. Tell your friends. Lots of good information that will be in that episode. hctmerch.com, facebook.com/healthcaretriage, patreon.com/healthcaretriage, reddit/r/hctriage. Check out all our things. I nailed them all in the first drive, and we're out.